Hey there, it's your good buddy Dave Temple here, and welcome to the Thriller Zone, where we are celebrating episode 227 with my good friend and your favorite author, one of them anyway, Jack Stewart. Today we're talking about Silent Horizons, so let's get into the Thriller Zone with Jack Stewart. All right, there's so many things I want to cover. I want to pull up my notes here. Last time we spoke, it was Bogey Spades, which was November of last year, which was not that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
I love that book. The one before that was Unknown Writer. That would have been December a year prior, right?
Yeah, that was the last time we talked, but I had another book come out in between the two.
Which was?
Outlaw.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, that's right. We missed that one.
Yeah. Yep. Because it was like 2-3 months after Unknown Writer. I'm like, I'm not going to do this.
Who was it that said, who asked me the other day, hey, how come Jack gets to get on so many times and I can't get on? I'm like, and I'm not going to say who it was.
Oh, come on. Say who it was.
A, Jack is my buddy. B, Jack is an interesting guest. C, Jack writes a hella books. And D, he offers to come out and see me, and we sit down face to face where it really gets juicy.
Yeah, that's the best part. I'm bummed I couldn't get out. I'm bummed I couldn't get out this time to do it. Actually, I think I do have a San Diego overnight coming up, though.
That means you have to write another book.
Well, it's good. I've got more coming. Yeah, actually on the 31st. Are you going to be in town?
May 31st?
Yeah.
Maybe the three of us can do dinner this time.
That's what I was thinking.
We are here. And as you know, the weather will be either spectacular as every day, or it will be May gray.
Yeah, it's the June gloom coming up. Yep.
Let me share this. Somebody was visiting recently. They said, hey, they rolled in and it happened to be one of those May gray days. And I'm like, they go, I thought San Diego was sunny all the time. I'm like, well, let me break it down. April is like probably perfection. But then by the time May comes in, you got May gray, June gloom, July no sky.
Yeah.
August foggust. I made that one up. And then by September, it's perfect again.
Yeah.
I want to know, first of all, let me maybe make sure this is here. Chad Robichaux sadly could not make it on the show today. He is, as you said, stacked and packed, right?
Yeah, he is.
But I want to know, because Jack, and if we've talked about this, please forgive me because my head is a little bit blurry, but you've never co-authored with anyone, right?
No.
What has that, in Silent Horizons, what has that journey been like for you?
Are we recording? Is this before the show or after the show?
Dude, I start recording the minute we say hi.
No, it's been really good. So the background on this is, Chad's done a lot of nonfiction books about his experiences. First one was called Saving Aziz, or the first real big one was Saving Aziz, and that was after the fall of Afghanistan, when we left a bunch of our interpreters behind. His interpreter and his family were there. They were worried because the Taliban knew who they were and they were going to come after him. And so they reached out to Chad and said, we need help getting out. And so he organized the whole effort to get, his interpreter's family out. Ended up getting 10,000 people out and saving them from the Taliban. It was a huge Herculean effort on his part. So the book was a bestseller, and but it was nonfiction, and people were like, "Well, you've had a really good, interesting military career. You should, write about it." But again, there's a lot of NDAs and stuff that he had to sign for the stuff that he was doing, and so he's like, "Well, I can do it in fiction, but I've never written fiction." And so he started reaching out, and we got linked up together, and so we kind of came up with this idea of a main character that sort of follows the same career path that he followed, but it's in a completely fictional environment. And then so I would, write a chapter and I would send it to him, and then he would, I'd be feeling this, or I was feeling this, and then kind of injecting a lot of authenticity into each chapter as it went along. And so it was good from the standpoint of where I really got a chance to I didn't have anybody nitpicking the, puppy to small dog kind of stuff. He wasn't interested in the actual writing of it. He was actually interested in the storytelling and make sure it was an authentic story. And then if I ever got stuck, I could call him up and say, "Hey, what would he do in this situation? Oh, okay, he'd do this or he'd do that." And so it was a really cool experience. It was probably one of the most fun books I've written. As you well know, writing is so isolating. You're in your own world by yourself the whole time, and it was nice to have someone I could pick up and call and who knew the world and knew what I was talking about.
To me, that would either be completely thrilling to know that I have a partner in crime on the project, or it would be terrifying from the standpoint of, here's what I would be thinking. What if I want to go this way and this is how my head's going, and all of a
Hmm.
sudden I go to connect with my partner and he's like, "Well, no, I was going this way and I
Yeah.
wanted to do that thing." Do you find yourself going, "Yeah, okay, super. You do that and I'll do this." And it I don't know, it's just a little, it's perplexing, I guess, because okay, confession time. I'm a little bit of a control freak.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe that would be part of it,
Yeah.
but
I will say I did try to do a co-author project with another established thriller writer. I won't name names at this point, but he had his own style and how his technique and how he would plot the story out and write the story. I had my own. Honestly, just didn't mesh well because I would maybe get ahead of him where he was, and then he wanted to go back, and I'm like, no, we got to keep moving forward, and so that didn't work out well. But in this situation, I think because I was doing the first draft, it was really easy. We agreed on a plot. We agreed on, the overall story arc. And then, I was free to write the first draft, and then he would kind of tweak it. Now, the very first, few chapters that I wrote, I did include some colorful language because it was authentic, right? And it was my experience downrange and working with seals on the ground, and I knew how they talked, and so I wrote it the way they talked. And, he contacted me and was like, "Hey, man, I've really been thinking about this, and I just know my followers are, probably would be turned off by this kind of language. Is there any way we can tweak that?" And I was like, "Absolutely, no problem." And this was before we even had a deal with Tyndale, which ended up being a good thing because, Tyndale's readers, they're looking for very clean language in the books as well. So we were able to pretty early on change it so that there was nothing offensive in it. It was still rang true. It was still a very authentic story, but it just wasn't colorful language, which I thought to be kind of funny because then I went back to writing my own books and I was finding that I was cussing a lot less, which my mom's probably very happy about.
you did not end up writing with that person.
We had a whole fleshed out plot and maybe got like 3 or 4 chapters in and he had some things come up and then this opportunity, for Silent Horizons dropped in my lap. And so I told him, I was like, "Hey, I got to put this on the back burner." And it ended up, for both our schedules, it ended up working out that we'd not do it.
Here's the other beautiful thing. You and Chad both had, is it fair to say this, various levels of expertise.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're both fighting the same battle, but you have a different kind of expertise. Side
Yes.
note, I was talking to, so Tim's in town. We're sitting there having dinner last night. And I said, "Listen, I'm gonna have to scoot out early, squeeze in a podcast, then I'll meet you for breakfast." He said, "Who are you interviewing?" I'm like, "A Top Gun fighter pilot, like Top Gun." He goes, "Like Top Gun the movie?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Like F-18?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Whoa." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah,
Yeah, and,
yeah."
like, if only you knew him, he's really not that exciting.
No, and I was thinking about this when I was looking at the cover. So when you see the word Top Gun, all you got to do is see that word, and you're like, "The movie? Was
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was he in the movie with Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer?" I'm like, "No, he was a little bit young then." But I want to make sure that my listeners know Tyndale House Publishing, which I'm familiar with. Tell my audience what makes them so specific or special, off the beaten path than a lot of your ordinary publishers.
Yeah, well, so, Tyndale is the largest Christian publisher. So they're not, they're not a Simon and Schuster. They're not a Penguin Random House. They do publish a lot of Bibles. They publish a lot of devotionals and things like that. But they're also publishing fiction. A lot of it is very faith focused.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you are looking for a Christian message, you will find it. But what they're starting to do as well, especially with the men's fiction market, is they're using it as a ministry tool. So we're really trying to write books that are not over your head, beating Christian morals and stuff into you, because it's kind of ironic, but I sort of find that some of the most judgmental people in the world, I know you and I have talked about this, are Christians, and we're supposed to not be. We're supposed to be welcoming, and instead we're turning people off. And so that was a big deal for Chad and I in particular, because our mission with this book, and we're lockstep. Chad was the founder of Mighty Oaks, one of the founders of Mighty Oaks, and they take a faith-based approach to treating veterans and first responders with PTSD. And we know that they save lives. We know that they restore families, and their work is really important. So we wanted this to be a branch of that, to maybe draw attention to Mighty Oaks. You can't do that if you're only talking to people that want to hear about, God, right? I mean, we want to reach people that have been there, have done that, and maybe aren't solid in their faith. Maybe don't know what they're looking for.
Well, and having, as you very well know, having grown up a PK, I have been now on both sides of that fence. And it's funny, we were talking about this yesterday again. We were talking about going to church, and I said, and I can share this with my listeners, when you have been force-fed religion, and I've used that term realistically and kindly, if I can, when it has been part of your DNA since you could breathe, then you are less apt to sometimes always want to walk that similar path 24/7.
Yeah.
And so I said, we were talking about, oh, did you, my mother-in-law said, did you go to church on Sunday? I'm like, oh, I missed that one. I said, maybe if I hadn't been force-fed it my whole life, I would have been there this past weekend. But I didn't.
I think everyone's journey is different, and not everyone, even finds Christ. And I don't view them any differently. And that's the problem. I do feel like a lot of Christians today do view them differently. It's like, we can hate sin, but we don't have to hate the sinner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This book in particular, like, if you're a non-believer and you just want a good, thrilling story, you can pick this up and enjoy it. You're not going to be force-fed religion. You're not going to be like beat over the head with this. But what you will find is a very authentic tale of somebody who is struggling with their faith and what it means to be a father, what it means to be a husband while going to war and doing going through some traumatic experiences. I mean, that's very real, whether you're a believer or not, and you'll get that in this book. And I think if you are a believer, you will find some things in there that will ring true to maybe your own path, or maybe path of other people who have found God.
It's funny, when we were while you were talking, something popped into my head. I can remember where I was sitting. It was in chapel. I went to Bible high school, Bible college. Someone was speaking one day, and when they said this phrase, I went, that's it. And it's this, about how Christians should share the word with the world. And they said they felt it was more important to take water to the desert than to the ocean. And that metaphor has always stuck with me. It's like, not to turn this into a Bible course, but, let's not hang on one second. Guess I shouldn't say fuck right here, because that would really kind of blow the whole Christian conversation I just had.
Do you know who Chris Peranto is?
Yes.
Yeah, Tonto. He was one of the 13 Hours guys, and he always says, like, I'm a Christian. I just say fuck a lot. And I'm like,
yeah,
you know what? That's 100% accurate. I think most of us probably fall into that category.
Thank goodness Daddy knows what he's doing. Not always.
Good thing you're a professional.
Well, good thing I don't freak under pressure. I think that's the real.
Which is a mark of a true professional.
Hey, let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be back with Jack Stewart talking about Silent Horizons. Stay with us. Silent Horizons by Chad Robichaux and Jack Stewart, available now. The desert. And anyway, that always stuck with me about our job is to take water to the desert, not to the ocean. Because what I found so interesting is this particular school was training all these people to be preachers and to go to Bible schools and talk to all the people who already knew everything we were talking about. So I'm like, shouldn't we kind of go out there where nobody knows what we're talking about?
Right.
Anyway.
And the other thing, I mean, my pastor at our church here, one of the things that he said recently is, the best way of bringing somebody to God is to, not go out and judge them and tell them what they're doing wrong and, and show them the way, but to live your life in such a way that they would like to model their behavior after you, right? So like by volunteering, by being, kind and gracious and forgiving and like all the stuff that we as Christians should be. If you do that, it's going to draw people to them. You don't have to go be like, you need to come with me to church on Sunday and you need to do this and you need to do that. That's just a little over the top.
Now I'm going to change channels just a wee bit. Is it common knowledge, and forgive me that I don't know this definitively, but I don't always have to know everything. Is it common knowledge that people may know that you are also the author of a particular franchise that starts with a W and ends with a G? It actually ends with an...
Yeah. Yeah. It has been announced. It's been announced, but I don't know how common knowledge it is because I'm not really pushing that one yet because I have Silent Horizons, and then I've got another one, the fourth book of my own series between now and then. So I sort of have to, focus my efforts on the closest alligator to the canoe.
So we're not talking about that one.
We can talk about whatever you want. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to mention the fact because when I was privy to this news early on, and I thought, wow, this is huge news. So now that I've built it up, you have to definitely share it.
Okay. So, for those who are fans of the military thriller genre and have been for a while, W.E.B. Griffin was probably one of the biggest names in military thrillers, along with Tom Clancy. And he was one of the guys that I read as a kid growing up. I read the Brotherhood of War series, and the Corps series, which followed Marines in World War II. I wasn't as familiar with the Presidential Agent series, which was kind of a post 9/11 counterterrorism series that he wrote. And Andrews and Wilson, I think people are very familiar with them, wrote book 9 in the series called Rogue Asset. And I thought the series was going to be done there because there was nothing, I hadn't heard anything. And then one day I got a call from my agent that says, hey, Tom Colgan wants you to write, book 10 in the series. And okay. So, so I wrote book 10. It's called Direct Action, and it does feature the main character that Andrews and Wilson introduced, which was PK Killer McCoy, who was the grandson of Kenneth McCoy from the Corps series. So it was that nice W.E.B. Griffin cross, series inbreeding kind of thing with all the characters knowing everybody, which I thought was really fun.
Guys and gals, for those who are not familiar with that particular series, let's pull up a name that you would... All right, Tom Clancy is probably, would you agree? Vince Flynn or Tom Clancy would be either one of those, the biggest names in that particular genre.
Mm-hmm.
This is right there with them. So my buddy here, Jack, is carrying on the torch.
It's a really fun one. I'm really excited for that book to come out.
So let's go back to this, because this is astonishing to me, and I'm going to use you as an example with the conversation I had with Tammy, my wife. You met Tammy the other day. She was talking about, honey, you're coming up on the 4th year in June. I mean, like literally 1 month from today, we're going to basically hit 4 years.
Yeah.
And she said, what's going to happen? We got a few things planned for the summer. Do you feel like the show has run its course? I'm like, and this is the first time I've talked about this on this show, and I'm doing it with you because you're my pal. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time to hang it up. Maybe it's just time to drop the mic.
Yeah.
And she looked at me like, what? And I was expecting her to go, yeah, good call. But she's like, wait, what? You love this. I'm like, I know. So she goes, well, what's making you do this? I said, I'm talking to Jack the other day. And actually the other day, meaning the last time you were in town, we're sitting at that restaurant in Pacific Beach, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I had privy to this book that we just mentioned coming up. And I'm like, wait a minute, Jack, that's like 3 or 4 books in 1 year. And you're
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I'm like, but you fly full time. Yeah. How do you do it? I just make it happen. And at that moment, and I don't know if I said this to you, and I'm like, and I write. I don't write to your degree, and I have not been traditionally published like yourself. I've been self-published. And I'm like, I want that. I want more of that. And she goes, well, can you do that and this podcast the way that you do it with this much preparation? I'm like, I don't know, but let's put it this way. This summer, it's game on.
Good. And first of all, everyone's going to hate me now for putting that idea in your head to stop doing this, because you have one of the best voices in the podcast game, and the quality of production is always top notch. You get the best guests. Everyone's going to hate me. I'm going to get death threats now from every other author out there. But personally, as your friend, I will say, like, I completely encourage you doing, chasing your passion. If your passion is this, man, keep doing it. If your passion is writing, you got to do that. And that's the answer to how I write so many books while still having a full-time job, while still having a family and all the obligations with it. It's a passion. And I want to put out good stories. I want to write. And so I made it happen now. I selfishly would like you to do both, but
I'm going to do both. Here's the thing. I just may not be able to do one every single week, because I sat down and started listening to you, and I listened to your method of writing. And I spent some time with David Baldacci recently and Jim Patterson, and we were talking about these different things and off mic. And this is one of my favorite things about this show is the fact that I get access to these guys. And I wish I could air so much of the overtime, for instance, because they tell me some inside scoop, and we'll be talking along, and I'm like, ooh, my audience is going to love this. And at the end, they'll go, do me a favor and don't share this last part with them.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what everyone wants to hear.
All of that is to say, I think you have to prioritize. That's really all you do. I mean, because when I sat down the other day and I did a little exercise, how much time am I wasting either scrolling on social media or some bullshit? And I went, if I just trimmed a lot of that silly time out, I could do them both. So anyway, folks, don't go after Jack. It's not his fault. It's just that we're pals and we talk frankly with each other and we tell it like it is. And I'm going to do both. I'm not going anywhere.
Whew.
Yeah.
Good news.
The book is Silent Horizons. I love the fact that you got a pretty good blurb from this guy. I think he's going to do okay. Jack Carr.
The jury's still out on that guy.
Yeah. A raw, intense, and authentic experience that pulls back the curtain on a world most will never see. There's a guy who knows a little bit about the world most will never see.
Yeah.
Please give our best to Chad Robichaux and tell him that we're sorry we couldn't get some time with him.
Yeah, of course. I definitely will. He is, when I say he is a good human being, I mean, he is a good human being. He is still giving of his time to, go out and actually do the mission to help people and change lives. And I think that's so important. So when he can't make stuff like this happen, I'm so happy to pick up the torch and carry it for him.
Well, and I'm not blowing smoke here when I say you're doing great work. You've got a beautiful, intelligent, brilliant, loving family. You're there for them. You carry the torch every day. You got a full-time job flying the skies of, can I say Southwest?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just a good, solid human being with integrity. And I'm honored to know you. So there.
Thank you. I feel the same about you, except you're not flying,
I fly, but it's gummies. Anyway, this book is now out, so you can go ahead and order it. And then I hope, is it safe to say you'll be back for your next book?
Yeah, as long as you're still doing this in the summer, I'll definitely be back for the next book. Yeah, and maybe we can do it in person, because it is so much better sitting across from the table from you.
So let's just make a situation where we shoot, we could do it out by the pool.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah, we'll have some cool, refreshing drinks, and we'll do some laps, and we'll turn it into some fun the way we always do.
Yeah. I like that.
Once again, Jack, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome. Like I said, I wish I could be across the table from you right now and go have lunch with you after, but I appreciate you at least doing this virtually with me.
We'll do it soon.
Sounds good.
Your number one podcast for stories that thrill, the thrill